Excellencies, distinguished guests and friends. I apologize for not being able to join you in Indonesia for the third high-level roundtable on the international treaty, but I thank you for the opportunity to make some remarks through this video. The challenges of declining agricultural biodiversity and food nutrition security feature strongly in contemporary discussions of sustainable development post-2015. The genetic diversity of crops and livestock, including their wild relatives, are an essential resource for the continued improvement of crop varieties and livestock breeds, particularly under the changing climate conditions. However, these genetic resources are fast declining due to a variety of drivers, causing enormous implications for food and nutrition security. A World Economic Forum assessment places food shortage crisis, together with water supply crisis, rising greenhouse gas emissions, and failure of climate change adaptation among the 10 top-ranked global risks for 2013. The fundamental role of agricultural biodiversity is relevant to both the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, as well as the Convention on Biological Diversity and its Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefit Sharing. The Nagoya Protocol was adopted in 2010 to further the third objective of the Convention regarding access to genetic resources and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from their use. By promoting the use of genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge, and by strengthening the opportunities for fair and equitable sharing of benefits from their use, the Protocol creates opportunities for developing an economy relying on sustainability and increased knowledge of the value of natural resources, leading to incentives for preserving genetic diversity and biodiversity in general, while providing the conditions for continuous research and development on genetic resources. The adoption of the Nagoya Protocol opens a new area of cooperation between the Convention and the Treaty. I'm very pleased that in Nagoya we signed a memorandum of cooperation between the CBD and the Treaty, and that this has now been elaborated in the CBD Treaty Joint Initiative, which Shaquille and I launched together on the margins of the Rio Plus 20 Summit and the second high-level roundtable on the treaty. These two documents establish the framework in which the CBD and the International Treaty can work together to enhance the effectiveness of in situ conservation, sustainable use, and access and benefit sharing together through our collaborative activities. Many of the activities foreseen in the CBD International Treaty Joint Initiative are particularly relevant to the themes of this conference. These include a joint initiative on-farm conservation, sustainable use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, and protected areas. Sharing of results from the treaty's benefit sharing program for keeping farmers ahead of climate change in conserving plant genetic resources for food and agriculture on-farm and in situ. Joint case studies on in situ and on-farm conservation of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture and its facilitation through relevant ABS agreements. And support to the ratification of the Nagoya Protocol and its harmonious implementation with the treaty through expanded joint capacity building activities and sharing of expertise on information management for access and benefit sharing. The Nagoya Protocol also recognizes the special nature of genetic resources for food and agriculture. And I have no doubt that mutually supportive implementation of the Protocol and the treaty can ensure continued access and benefit sharing from the use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. Now, we need to demonstrate that our collaboration can bring new value added and clear results to governments and society as a whole. I would like, in particular, to promote a broad collaborative partnership with the treaty and other institutions to strengthen the in situ conservation of agrobiodiversity for food security. This will contribute to achieving Aichi biodiversity targets 11, 13, and 18 of our strategic plan for biodiversity and targets 9 and 13 of the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation of the Convention on Biological Diversity. I would also be remiss if I did not mention Aichi Target 16, which focus on the early entry into force of the Nagoya Protocol and its operationalization by parties. With the recent ratification by Mongolia and Comoros, we now have 18 parties to the Convention that have deposited the necessary instrument to join the Nagoya Protocol. This is over 1/3 of the 50 ratifications required for the protocol to enter into force. A number of countries are in the process of finalizing their national procedures towards ratification or accession. I congratulate the host country, Indonesia, for completing its national process for the ratification of the Nagoya Protocol. I have every confidence that the Nagoya Protocol will enter into force in time for the first meeting of the parties to the protocol to be held concurrently with the 12th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention to take place in October 2014 in the Republic of Korea. Rapid entry into force of the Nagoya Protocol will continue the message that began in Nagoya, that multilateralism provides the best opportunity to meet challenges such as the conservation and sustainable use of agrobiodiversity and the need to adapt to climate change. To this end, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, sent a letter to all heads of states in April of this year, highlighting the value of contribution that the protocol can make to sustainable development and urging them to take steps to ensure the ratification or accession to the Nagoya Protocol at the earliest opportunity so that the international community can move to the implementation phase. I therefore urge you all to expedite your national process towards ratifying or acceding to the protocol, which will also ensure that your country can sit as a party during the first meeting of the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties of the Nagoya Protocol, and play an important role in the decision-making process for the further development and implementation of the protocol. Recognition of interdependencies, common goals, and win-win outcomes is enabling us to work better together for sustainable food and nutrition security around the world, founded on biodiversity. I look forward to the outcomes of this roundtable discussions. Thank you very much for your kind attention.